It's,
Wow.
it's more than just knowing what words mean. It's how they all link up, right? To make phrases, sentences,
Yeah.
meaning.
Exactly. And that's what we're getting into today. We're looking at some really core ideas from a lecture on linguistic knowledge and compositionality.
Okay, so what's the mission for this deep dive then?
Well, basically, to explore how we build meaning in language,
Mhm.
the fundamental principles behind it. And there's some pretty surprising complexities along the way.
Interesting. Okay, so when we're making sense of language, it's not just one big process. You mentioned there are different kinds of knowledge involved.
That's right. Think of it as three pillars supporting our understanding: phonological, syntactic, and semantic knowledge. They all work together.
All right, let's break that down. Phonological, that sounds like.
Yeah, precisely. It's your sort of built-in understanding of a language's sound system.
Yeah.
It's how you instantly know Pat isn't the same as bad. That tiny little sound difference completely changes the meaning. And it also includes things like intonation, how your voice goes up for a question.
Got it. So the sounds and the melody of language, what about syntactic knowledge? That sounds more like grammar class.
Yeah, basically. It's your unconscious grasp of the rules. How words, like nouns and verbs, fit together properly to make sentences.
Right.
So you just know the student read the book works,
Uh-huh.
but read book, the student this. Well, that's just a jumble, even if you know what each word means. The structure's key.
Right, the order matters. Okay, so sounds, structure, and the third one was semantic knowledge.
Semantic knowledge. That's simply knowing the meanings of the individual words themselves.
Like knowing what student means, what read means, what book means.
Exactly. But the really cool part is how these three sounds structure. I mean, they don't just sit there separately. They're constantly interacting.
Okay, how so? Can you give an example of how they influence each other?
Sure. Think about how a word's meaning, that's semantics, can actually restrict how you use it grammatically, that's syntax. Like if I say, the rock sighed deeply, it sounds weird, right?
Yeah, definitely odd. Rocks don't sigh.
Exactly. Because sigh usually implies something alive. So the meaning of rock bumps up against the typical grammatical use of sigh. It shows how meaning can affect what feels grammatically okay.
Wow, okay, so they're really intertwined. This sounds like it leads into that big principle you mentioned, semantic compositionality.
Yes, exactly. Frege's principle, it's often called. The core idea is pretty straightforward, actually.
Way honest.
It just states that the meaning of a complex expression, like a sentence, is built up from two things: the meanings of its individual parts, the words,
Okay.
and the way those parts are put together structurally, the grammar.
So meaning of the words plus the structure they're in equals the meaning of the whole thing, like a recipe.
That's a great way to put it. Think about Ali hit Adam
Okay.
versus Adam hit Ali. Same words, right? Ali hit Adam. But the structure, who's doing the hitting, who's receiving it, is different. And because of that structure, the overall meaning completely changes. Instantly, they describe different events.
Totally different scenarios. It's so obvious when you point it out like that. You had a math analogy, too.
Yeah, I think it helps make it intuitive. Consider, like, order of operations in math. 10, 5 by 2. That gives you 10.
Right. 5 times 2?
But if you do 10, 5 by 2.
That's 10 minus 10. 0.
Exactly. Same numbers, different structure, the parentheses, the order, totally different result. Language works in a very similar way. The grammar guides how the word meanings combine.
That makes so much sense. Structure is everything. Okay, so compositionality seems fundamental, but, language always seems to have exceptions. Does it always work so neatly?
Good question. And no, not always. While compositionality is like the bedrock, language definitely throws some curveballs. There are phenomena that challenge it, or at least show its limits.
Okay, I knew it. Like what kinds of things don't just add up?
Well, let's start with compound words. Some are straightforward, but others, not so much. Take bookworm.
Right, not an actual worm.
No, it means someone who reads a lot. The meaning isn't just book plus worm. Or ashtray. Okay, that one's pretty compositional. Tray for ashes.
Makes sense.
But then think about firefly. It's not just any fly near a fire.
No, it's a specific bug that lights up.
Exactly. The meaning is more specialized than just fire plus fly. Same with, say, whiteboard. It's not just any board that's white. It's that specific erasable surface. The combined meaning has extra layers.
Okay, so compounds can be tricky. What else complicates this principle?
Another big one is polysemy. That's just the technical term for words having multiple meanings.
Like bank, or riverbank, or a money bank?
Exactly like that. The source uses the example charge. It could be electrical charge, a legal charge, or like charging forward.
Right.
The word itself doesn't tell you which one. You need the rest of the sentence, the context, to figure out the intended meaning before you can even apply compositionality to the whole phrase.
Ah, okay, so context helps us pick the right building block first. Makes sense. What was the last challenge?
Idioms. Idiomatic expressions. These are phrases where the meaning is totally fixed and it's, well, completely different from the literal meanings of the words.
Like raining cats and dogs.
Perfect example. Or spill the beans. You're not literally spilling
You are
beans,
revealing a secret.
right? Or Achilles heel, meaning a weakness. You have to learn the meaning of the whole idiom as one chunk. You can't build it from the parts.
Definitely can't figure those out just from the words. Okay, so let's kind of recap. This principle of compositionality building meaning from words and structure. It's
Hmm.
super important, right? It's how we understand sentences we've never heard before.
Absolutely fundamental. It's what makes language so powerful and flexible. But these other cases, the tricky compounds, words with multiple meanings, idioms they don't mean compositionality, is wrong. They just show that language is richer than just that one principle. They highlight this really interesting interplay between our core knowledge of words and structure and other things like context and shared cultural conventions.
So it's the main rule, but there are these other layers and factors that make language complex and, well, human.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
It's this dynamic mix of basic building blocks and the wider world they exist in.
Really fascinating stuff. It makes you think about how much is going on under the hood when we just talk.
It really does.
Well, if this deep dive into how meaning works in language got you thinking, definitely hit like and subscribe to Ling in Short over on YouTube.
Yeah, and if you know anyone else who geeks out on this stuff, maybe a linguistics student or just someone curious about language, please share this with them.
And maybe pay attention to the compound words or idioms you use today. Ask yourself, is that meaning just the sum of its parts?
It might just make you appreciate the complexity of everyday language even more. We'll definitely be back with more linguistic explorations soon.